Coffee feels safe, familiar. It's the first thing you reach for in the morning. The warm cup you trust to wake you up and get you through the day. For many people, especially seniors, it's not just a drink, it's a daily ritual built over decades. But what if that cup of coffee is quietly working against your health? Hidden inside many popular coffee brands are mold toxins, pesticide residues, and heat-created chemicals that build up in your body over time. These aren't dramatic, instant dangers. They're slow, invisible risks that can strain your kidneys, raise blood pressure, interfere with medications, and increase cancer risk when consumed every single day. Today, we're exposing 9 coffee brands you should avoid at all costs. Brands that rely on nostalgia, low prices, and heavy marketing while cutting corners on safety. And just as importantly, we'll reveal 2 coffee brands that actually meet real health and purity standards, so you can enjoy your morning cup without gambling with your long-term well-being. Worst number 1, Folgers has built its empire on comfort and familiarity. That red can sitting on the kitchen counter feels like home. For decades, it marketed itself as the best part of waking up, especially to older generations, who grew up trusting the brand without question. But what most people don't realize is that the coffee inside that can is no longer what it once was, and in some cases, it may be actively working against your health. Independent lab testing has repeatedly found acrylamide in Folgers coffee, chemical formed when coffee beans are roasted at very high temperatures. Acrylamide is classified as a probable human carcinogen, and long-term exposure has been linked to nerve damage and increased cancer risk. For seniors who drink multiple cups a day, that exposure quietly adds up over months and years. The concerns don't stop there. Folgers sources beans from massive industrial farms where pesticide use is routine, not exceptional. Residues from chemicals like glyphosate have been detected in coffee samples across the industry. These compounds can interfere with how the body processes medications, particularly blood pressure and heart drugs commonly taken by older adults. There's also a quality issue that many loyal customers have noticed but couldn't explain. Some cans smell flat, stale, or even cardboard-like when opened. That's oxidation. Coffee beans sitting too long in warehouses lose their protective antioxidants, meaning you are left with caffeine stimulation but none of the heart or brain benefits coffee is supposed to provide. Folgers survives on nostalgia, not quality. The branding stayed warm and familiar while the sourcing, roasting, and safety standards quietly declined. If coffee is something you drink every single morning, trusting a brand that prioritizes profit margins over purity is a risk you need to take. The next brand proves this problem isn't isolated, it's systemic. Worst number 2, Maxwell House. Maxwell House has long sold itself as dependable and harmless. That familiar blue can promises consistency, simplicity, and a cup of coffee you never have to think about. Good to the last drop sounds reassuring, especially for seniors who value routine. But when you look past the slogan, serious health concerns begin to surface. One of the biggest problems with Maxwell House is its heavy reliance on Robusta coffee beans. Robusta beans are cheaper to grow and higher in caffeine, but they also contain much higher levels of kefstel, a compound known to raise LDL bad cholesterol. For older adults managing cholesterol levels or taking statins, this is not a small issue. Regular consumption of kefstel-heavy coffee has been shown to increase LDL cholesterol by as much as 10%, quietly undermining years of careful heart health management. Independent testing has also detected ochratoxin A, a toxic mold byproduct, in Maxwell House samples. This mycotoxin is especially dangerous because it accumulates over time, placing strain on the kidneys and increasing cancer risk. Seniors are particularly vulnerable because kidney function naturally declines with age, making toxin elimination less efficient. Drinking contaminated coffee daily turns a morning habit into a long-term health burden. The industrial roasting process adds another layer of risk. Maxwell House uses high-speed, high-temperature roasting designed for shelf life and volume, not safety or nutrition. This destroys beneficial antioxidants like chlorogenic acids while increasing acrylamide formation. What remains is a bitter, hollow brew that offers stimulation without protection. Maxwell House isn't dangerous because of one shocking ingredient. It's dangerous because of consistent small compromises, cheap beans, aggressive roasting, and minimal oversight that add up over time, when coffee is something you drink every day for decades. Those compromises matter far more than the comforting promise printed on the can. Worst number 10. Nescafe. Nescafe built its reputation on speed and simplicity. Yay! Just add hot water, and you have coffee in seconds. For seniors with limited energy, busy mornings, or mobility issues, that convenience feels like a gift. But instant coffee hides one of the most aggressive processing methods in the entire beverage industry, and the health cost of that speed is rarely discussed. To make instant coffee, Nescafe subjects brewed coffee to spray drying or freeze drying at temperatures exceeding 400 degrees Fahrenheit. This extreme heat destroys nearly all beneficial antioxidants while dramatically increasing acrylamide, a chemical linked to cancer risk and nerve damage. Independent testing shows that some instant coffees contain up to twice the acrylamide levels found in traditionally brewed coffee. For someone drinking coffee daily, that difference is not trivial. It compounds quietly over time. Sourcing raises even more concerns. Nescafe relies heavily on large-scale plantations in regions where pesticide regulations are weak or poorly enforced. Residue testing has detected traces of banned or restricted chemicals, including DDT metabolites, still present decades after they were outlawed in many countries. These toxins accumulate in fatty tissues and can disrupt hormone balance, a serious concern for older adults whose bodies process toxins more slowly. Many consumers report a metallic or chemical taste, often dismissed as preference. In reality, this flavor can signal low-quality beans, contamination, or excessive processing. The FDA allows a surprising amount of defects in instant coffee, including insect fragments and mold contamination, as long as they remain below certain thresholds. That jar sitting on your shelf for months without changing should be a warning, not a comfort. Coffee that never degrades is coffee that's been stripped, stabilized, and engineered beyond recognition. When convenience replaces quality entirely, your health is often the hidden price you pay. Worst number for Dunkin'. Dunkin' sells comfort as effectively as it sells coffee. The orange and pink logo promises the same smooth, familiar cup you get in their stores, now available at home in a bag. For many people, especially seniors, this feels like a safe extension of a trusted routine. But packaged Dunkin' coffee tells a very different story once it leaves the cafe. Independent testing and consumer reports point to inconsistent roasting and extended storage times across Dunkin's packaged products. Coffee beans oxidize quickly after roasting, and once ground, that process accelerates dramatically. By the time many Dunkin' bags reach store shelves, a significant portion of the coffee's antioxidants have already degraded. What you brew at home often lacks the heart-protective compounds people associate with coffee's health benefits. Storage and supply chain practices raise deeper concerns. Some shipments have been flagged for improper drying or humid warehousing, conditions that allow molds like Aspergillus and Penicillium to grow on beans. These molds produce mycotoxins that survive roasting and end up in your cup. For seniors, particularly those with respiratory issues, weakened immune systems, or kidney concerns, regular exposure can trigger inflammation, allergic reactions, or long-term organ stress. Many loyal customers notice something else, but don't know how to describe it. Bags that smell flat, dusty, or faintly sour when opened. That's a warning sign of age, oxidation, or contamination. Box-to-box inconsistency is common, suggesting quality standards vary depending on supplier and timing, rather than a single strict benchmark. Dunkin's in-store coffee is brewed fresh and consumed quickly. Packaged Dunkin' is not. When a brand trades on familiarity while quietly changing what's inside the bag, trust becomes a liability. And for a daily habit, that's a risk worth questioning before the next pod is brewed. Worst number 5. 8 o'clock coffee. 8 o'clock coffee once stood for reliability. It was the sensible choice on the grocery shelf, familiar red packaging, reasonable price, and a reputation built over generations. Many households bought it weekly without a second thought. But over time, affordability became the priority, and quality quietly slipped out the back door. One of the most common complaints from consumers today is the musty, moldy smell that hits when a new bag is opened. That damp, basement-like odor is not harmless staleness. It's a strong indicator of moisture exposure during storage or transport, conditions that allow mold to grow on coffee beans. Mold on coffee produces mycotoxins that cannot be destroyed by roasting. They survive heat, brewing, and digestion, accumulating in the body over time. For seniors, this is especially dangerous. Chronic exposure to mycotoxins has been linked to liver stress, immune suppression, and increased cancer risk. Research shows these toxins place added strain on organs that already weaken with age. Drinking contaminated coffee daily turns a morning habit into a long-term burden on your health. 8 o'clock also sources beans from multiple low-cost regions with minimal oversight, increasing the risk of pesticide residues. Independent testing has detected neurotoxic chemicals like chlorpyrifos, a pesticide linked to cognitive decline and neurological disorders. For older adults, managing Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, or other neurological conditions, this exposure can worsen symptoms and interfere with medications. Rapid high-heat roasting is often used to mask poor-quality beans, but it comes at a cost. This process raises acrylamide levels while destroying beneficial antioxidants that protect the heart and brain. What's left is a harsh, bitter cup stripped of health benefits. 8 o'clock still looks like the dependable brand people remember, but ownership changes and aggressive cost-cutting transformed what's inside the bag. When a coffee's main selling point is price, safety and quality are often the first things sacrificed, and your body ends up paying the difference. Worst number 6. Starbucks built its name on the idea of premium coffee culture, ethical sourcing, careful roasting, and cafe-quality flavor. That reputation carries real weight, especially with seniors who associate the green logo with quality and safety. But Starbucks pre-ground grocery store coffee doesn't live up to that image, and in some ways it undermines it. The first problem is oxidation. Once coffee is ground, it begins losing flavor and antioxidants almost immediately as oxygen breaks down delicate compounds. Starbucks pre-ground coffee often sits in warehouses for months, then on store shelves for weeks more before purchase. By the time it reaches your kitchen, much of what makes coffee beneficial, chlorogenic acids and polyphenols that support heart and brain health, is already gone. You're paying a premium price for a product that is quietly expired nutritionally. Sourcing raises additional concerns. Environmental watchdog testing has found pesticide residues in Starbucks grocery products, including compounds like imidacloprid, a neonicotinoid insecticide linked to nervous system disruption in animal studies. For seniors on heart or blood pressure medications, even low-level exposure can contribute to dizziness, palpitations, or medication interactions over time. Then there's the roast profile. Starbucks' signature very dark roasting doesn't just shape flavor, it also masks defects. Over-roasting can hide stale beans, poor storage, or lower quality sourcing while increasing bitterness and acrylamide formation. That burnt taste many people mistake for strong coffee is often a sign of aggressive heat rather than quality beans. Consumers frequently report dusty or flat aromas when opening a bag, clear indicators of age and oxidation. The branding promises cafe freshness. The contents deliver shelf-stable compromise. Starbucks may excel at serving fresh drinks in store, but it's packaged. Pre-ground coffee trades freshness and purity for distribution convenience. When a brand relies more on its logo than on the integrity of what's inside the bag, the premium becomes an illusion. Your daily cup quietly loses both its flavor and its benefits. Worst number 7. Great value exists for one reason: price. Walmart's store-brand coffee promises the lowest cost on the shelf, and for shoppers on fixed incomes that can feel like a smart choice. But with coffee, rock-bottom pricing usually signals rock-bottom standards. And the hidden costs show up in your health, not on the receipt. Great value sources from the lowest tiers of the global commodity market. Your beans are graded. C or lower grades reputable roasters won't touch. These beans are far more likely to contain defects such as insect damage, mold growth, and improper fermentation. U.S. regulations allow a surprising amount of contamination in coffee before action is required. Budget brands often push those limits. Independent analyses have found elevated levels of ochratoxin, cutene, gating mycotoxinin, bargain coffees compared to premium alternatives. For seniors, whose kidney function naturally declines with age, chronic exposure is especially dangerous. Processing compounds the risk. Great value relies on third-party co-packers producing massive volumes for multiple brands with minimal oversight. Quality control varies by batch, and cross-contamination is a documented problem. Some lots show signs of foreign material from previous production runs, a red flag for sanitation and inspection failures. Rapid, high-heat roasting use, 2 mask defects. X is acrylamide, while destroying antioxidants. They give coffee its protective benefits. The packaging promises value, but the trade-off is safety and consistency. Saving a few dollars per canister, ISNT, a bargain if it means ingesting higher toxin loads every morning. When coffee is a daily habit for years or decades, the cheapest option can become the most expensive mistake. Worst number, 8. Chock-full o' nuts. Chock-full o' nuts trades almost entirely on memory. The bright orange can, the familiar name, the idea that this is the same coffee your parents or grandparents drank for decades. For many seniors, it feels comforting and dependable, like a link to simpler mornings. But the modern product behind that nostalgic branding is far removed from the coffee that originally earned that trust. One of the biggest problems with chock-full o' nuts is extreme over-roasting. The beans are pushed to very dark roast levels to maximize shelf life and mask poor quality raw beans. This process creates polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs, carcinogenic compounds also found in charred meat and cigarette smoke. Studies show heavily roasted coffees can contain 3 to 4 times higher PA levels than medium roasts. For seniors, long-term exposure increases cancer risk, particularly for bladder and lung cancers. Sourcing practices raise even deeper concerns. Supply chain investigations show that chock-full o' nuts relies on bulk commodity suppliers with little traceability, meaning it's often impossible to know which farms the beans came from or what chemicals were used. Independent residue testing has detected neurotoxic pesticides such as paraquat and chlorpyrifos in commodity coffees. These chemicals have been linked to Parkinson's disease progression, cognitive decline, and nervous system damage, risks that are especially serious for older adults. Consumer complaints paint a troubling picture. Reports of rancid odors, gritty texture, and even visible mold inside sealed cans are not rare. Some buyers describe opening a new container only to find a sour smell or white mold growth on the grounds, clear signs of storage or processing failures. Customer service responses are often dismissive, offering refunds without addressing the underlying safety problems. Chock-full o' nuts survives because people trust the name, not because the product still earns that trust. What once symbolized reliable American coffee now represents a brand that prioritizes shelf stability and profit over safety. When nostalgia is the main selling point, it's often covering up the truth and, in this case, that truth doesn't belong in your morning cup. Worst number, 9. Community coffee. Community coffee wraps itself in warmth and tradition. Yellow packaging, the Southern heritage. The language of family and community make it feel trustworthy, especially to longtime customers who've grown up with it. But behind that friendly image are repeated safety issues that should concern anyone who drinks coffee daily, particularly seniors. Community coffee has faced multiple recalls linked to mold contamination, often traced back to improper storage in hot, humid environments common along the Gulf Coast. Moisture and heat create ideal conditions for molds like Aspergillus, which produce aflatoxins, among the most potent natural carcinogens known. Aflatoxin B1 is classified as a Group 1 carcinogen, meaning it is proven to cause cancer in humans. Even small, repeated exposures place significant strain on the liver, an organ that already works harder with age. Independent testing has also shown elevated levels of ochratoxin A and acrylamide compared to better controlled brands. Ochratoxin A damages kidneys and accumulates over time, while acrylamide forms during high heat roasting and is linked to nerve damage and increased cancer risk. For seniors managing liver conditions, taking statins, or dealing with metabolic issues, this daily toxin load can quietly accelerate long-term damage. Quality complaints go beyond chemistry. Customers have reported foreign objects, metal fragments, plastic pieces, and hard debris inked into grounds, leading to cracked teeth and damaged dental work. These aren't cosmetic flaws. They indicate serious lapses in filtering, inspection, and equipment maintenance. Repeated complaints suggest systemic issues rather than isolated accidents. Community coffee relies heavily on regional loyalty to soften scrutiny. Apologies are issued after recalls, but the same problems resurface because accountability remains limited. Tradition should mean care and responsibility, not an excuse to cut corners. When a brand repeatedly shows that safety comes second to volume and profit, no amount of hometown pride can make it safe for your morning routine. Best number 1. Purity Coffee. Purity Coffee exists for people who don't want to gamble with their health every morning. Unlike most coffee companies, Purity was built from the ground up around one core idea: coffee should support your body, not quietly damage it over time. That philosophy shows up in ways most major brands simply refuse to match. Every single batch of Purity Coffee is independently lab tested for mold toxins, heavy metals, pesticides, and acrylamide. Not random spot checks, not occasional testing. Every batch. Even more important, the results are made publicly available, meaning you don't have to trust marketing claims. You can verify the data yourself. That level of transparency is almost unheard of in the coffee industry. Purity sources beans from high-altitude organic farms, where cooler temperatures naturally reduce mold growth and pest pressure. This eliminates the need for aggressive chemical pesticides that show up in many commercial coffees. The beans are then roasted using carefully controlled temperatures designed to minimize acrylamide formation while preserving chlorogenic acids and polyphenols, the antioxidants responsible for coffee's heart and brain benefits. For seniors, this matters deeply. Purity specifically avoids compounds known to raise blood pressure, stress the kidneys, or interfere with common medications. The result is a coffee that delivers energy without jitters, stimulation without inflammation, and flavor without chemical bitterness. When you open a bag, the aroma is fresh and clean, not dusty or sour, clear sign of proper storage and recent roasting. Purity Coffee costs more than supermarket brands, but that price reflects real safeguards, not branding. You're paying for verified purity, not nostalgia or convenience. If coffee is something you drink every day, choosing a brand that treats safety like a non-negotiable standard isn't a luxury, it's a smart investment in your long-term health. Best number 2. Kicking Horse Coffee. Kicking Horse Coffee proves that large-scale coffee production doesn't have to sacrifice safety, ethics, or transparency. While many brands hide behind vague sourcing claims and polished packaging, Kicking Horse does something rare in the modern food industry. They show their work. Kicking Horse is certified organic by accredited third-party organizations, which immediately eliminates the most dangerous synthetic pesticides found in commodity coffee. Organic certification isn't just a label here. It's backed by regular audits, soil standards, and residue testing that dramatically reduce chemical exposure. For seniors managing chronic conditions or taking multiple medications, avoiding daily pesticide intake can make a meaningful difference over time. The brand also commits to rigorous contaminant testing, screening for mold toxins like ochratoxin, heavy metals, and other impurities before coffee reaches consumers. Unlike companies that quietly accept acceptable limits, Kicking Horse actively works to stay well below those thresholds. Their beans are sourced from high-quality farms with proper drying and storage practices, which minimizes mold growth long before roasting even begins. Roasting is handled with precision rather than speed. Temperature-controlled methods preserve beneficial antioxidants while keeping acrylamide formation as low as possible. The result is coffee that tastes clean and balanced, not burnt, bitter, or harsh. When you open a bag, the aroma is fresh and lively, a clear sign that oxidation hasn't already robbed the coffee of its benefits. Kicking Horse also maintains fair trade certification, ensuring farmers aren't forced into unsafe shortcuts just to meet price demands. Ethical sourcing often correlates directly with safer food because farms that are treated fairly can afford proper harvesting, drying, and storage. At a reasonable mid-premium price, Kicking Horse delivers something most brands don't: confidence. You're not relying on nostalgia or marketing promises. You're choosing coffee backed by testing, standards, and accountability. For a daily habit that spans decades, that kind of trust is worth far more than a few dollars saved. It's something you put into your body every single day, often for decades. That means small problems don't stay small. Mold toxins, pesticide residues, and heat-created chemicals don't cause instant harm. They accumulate quietly, stressing your liver, kidneys, heart, and nervous system over time. Many of the brands you've trusted for years survive on nostalgia, low prices, and powerful marketing, not on modern safety standards. The good news is this: you're not powerless. You don't have to give up coffee to protect your health. You just have to choose better. Brands that test every batch, control sourcing, and prioritize purity prove that safe coffee is possible when companies put people before profit. So before you brew your next pot, look at what's in your pantry. If your coffee relies on tradition instead of transparency, convenience instead of care, or price instead of purity, it's time to move on. Your morning ritual should support your health, not quietly work against it.